Alright, I thought I'd do a quick overview and mini-review for Kunio Three Kingdoms. The official name is really complicated, but I believe when it gets localized it's going to be called River City Saga Three Kingdoms. Overall, I enjoyed this game. It's definitely amateurish in some of the ways that it's designed, but it's still pretty enjoyable. Okay, so as you can see, you've got the ancient sprites from prehistoric era here, but there's a lot of new animation frames. There's actually a surprising amount of new animations, so they're not just giving you the same thing with the same thing with these old sprites. There's actually a lot of new animation. There's new mechanics and everything. Okay, so let's get into a fight here. I've been working very hard on this game the past few days. Biggest problem right now is that there's barely any information on this game in any language, let alone English. I've been using a translator app to play this, so I haven't had problems with a language barrier for the most part. It's really just been not knowing how to get the secrets and stuff. So let's just get into a fight here. So the moveset is basically like God Hand in that you have specific categories. Like you have your punch, your kick, you have your grab, you have jump punch, jump kick, and then you have like a super joy type thing here. You also have moves for weapons as well. It's never really felt useful to really spec in them because you need to have the weapon around and the weapons don't always spawn. You also have these, which are super moves, are done with guard, and punch, and kick, respectively. You will unlock these by making the move spark. If you ever played East, you know the term sparking. You use something a certain amount of times, then with a certain combination of moves, which it's been really hard for me to find due to the lack of information, then you will get these other super moves, and some are good for utility, some are good for, bossing. And then you have strategies. Strategies are basically like supers. They have different functions. Some of them are used for puzzles and things like that. As you can see, I've unlocked the majority of them. So let's go ahead and use the fire attack. These are ancient sprites from prehistoric era, but they make them look pretty nice, given that. So some moves actually have cancel points. Like this, you can jump cancel. You can also dodge cancel it as well. And you can change your moveset at any time. The game definitely does incentivize using as many of them as you can, because that's how you get the other moves. So for status, you've got the usual River City Ransom stats. I'm at level 75 right now, which means that I have most things maxed, but as you can see on the left-hand side, you can see that my stats are actually larger than 75. That means that stats or equipment can actually get you past the cap. So you want to have high-leveled equipment that buffs the stats that you want. On the right side, there's actually abilities in the game too. Abilities come from gear. Like I have a bunch on here. I don't want to pull out the translator app and make the video longer, but a lot of these give more damage. I have a lot of luck spec as well, so that I can get drops. Gear drops only occur on the second difficulty and higher. So the first playthrough, you will not have access to anything outside of the shop, and on the second playthrough, they give you this gear to, kind of incentivize playing the game again. The map is actually quite large. My biggest pet peeve with this game is it does not have the usual JRPG progression, where the final boss just stands there in their dungeon, and I guess they DoorDash pizza or something, and they wait like 40 hours for you to get to the final boss while you do all the side quest cleanup. You actually cannot do that here. The way this game works is each part of the game is divided into 6 chapters respectively, and while you're in that chapter, you cannot leave it without losing your progress. However, once you've beaten the game, you can go back to, actually at any time, you can go back to any chapter in any difficulty you want. So, what I'm trying to do right now is what I'd call reverse grinding, where if you've ever played the Neo games, you know, especially if you haven't played those games, you know, when they were releasing and when they were still getting DLC, is you can go to the hardest difficulty and get better gear and then go back and do cleanup. That actually seems like what they want you to do here, because you have access to the other difficulties at any time. However, you can't actually... You can see there's a lot to the game world left, but I'm stuck in this lower right-hand corner. I cannot leave this lower right-hand corner in the chapter, which I think is kind of annoying. I get that this game is pretty story-focused. There's a lot of dialogue choices and alternate endings and stuff, but it's pretty annoying that I'm at the end of the game and I can't go back up here. I will have to go play through the other chapters again, and I'm not exactly sure which chapter has access to the most parts of the game so that I can go clean up all the rest of the stuff. The game's had some bugs. It's definitely been janky in some ways. However, this game autosaves every time you go into a new loading zone, so it actually makes it pretty easy to recover from. I've had the game soft lock a couple times. So the rest of the game is pretty much self-explanatory. You will need a translator app to play this, but basically, a lot of the other mechanics are very similar to the old-school Kunio games. You know, you learn moves from books. You can cook. You can have, or not. You can cook, but you can buy meals that give you buffs, and you can also buy consumable items. So I've got a lot of stuff in here because I've beaten the game twice. In terms of the amateurish things in this game, it's the ability to not really go through the whole map when you're at the point of no return. Also, really weird pacing problems. A lot of times they'll want you to go find an NPC or get crafting material to progress the story, but it won't tell you where they are, and also those crafting materials do not respawn, so you have to find every mining point that there is for that specific material. Like there's straw, there's wood, and then there's iron. I got stuck on trying to get iron for Zhuge Liang for like, it had to have been like an hour, and it turns out I needed to go underground into the sewers or whatever, and there was iron in there, and I could not find the spawn points anywhere else. There's a lot of weird padding in this game, considering that, you know, it has multiple story paths, multiple endings, and there's 4 difficulties. It's weird to have that much padding, and the padding does not really reduce when you play the game either. It definitely feels like maybe they wanted the game to be longer, but they ran out of, you know, dev time or budget or resources, so instead they just padded out the game as much as they could. It doesn't really hurt the game that much, but it is annoying, and as I'm about to go through my 3rd playthrough, you know, it gets easier once you've done it multiple times, but there are a lot of times this game is not really clear on what it wants you to do. And it has nothing to do with the language barrier. I don't want people to come in here and say that, because I can read a little bit of Japanese, and I have a translator app on my phone, which has effectively removed the language barrier. A lot of times it's just not clear what it wants. You know, NPCs won't be marked. I've had multiple times where an NPC is not marked. I have to talk to them, and then that is the progression trigger. That happens a lot in this game, so if you get frustrated by that stuff, you might want to wait for a guide. I was not really able to find any guides for the game, but I was still able to clear it twice. The language barrier is actually not that bad in this game if you have a translator app. It's just a lot of progression triggers in this game are really awkward. It doesn't really make much sense. Sometimes, like right now, I am at what you'd call the JRPG point of no return. Like, the final boss is waiting right here, but for some reason, I can't go to the other 75% of the map, so I have to go back in the chapter, and go back in the previous chapters and clean up the rest of this stuff. It definitely gets annoying, and definitely feels like the game could use a little bit of polish. Ironically, they put the patch out, like, a day after the game came out. So maybe they'll do some polished patches or something. In terms of whether it's worth money, I mean, it's kind of like a non-issue. I paid about $42 for this game after markup from one of the eShop, or the Japanese eShop card sellers. It's not going to be that much when it comes out in America or globally. It'll probably be like $20, $30. I think it's worth it at that price. It does look old. It looks antiquated. Some aspects of the game itself are antiquated, but it's a pretty competent game. I definitely think that with a couple patches they can ease up things a little bit. It's kind of a little bit dumb that I have to go through a bunch of busy work and find the chapter that has the specific part of the world map that's accessible, just so I can clean everything up when I've already beaten the game twice. Just lots of really weird polish and bugs and stuff, but it'll probably be $20 to $30. I definitely would recommend it for that price. If you want to get it now, the only warning I give you, besides obvious stuff like, you know, the game is all in Japanese, is that there's very little information about this game on the internet at all. I got stuck once and I had to watch a Japanese channel's stream just to get past where I was stuck. If you don't have the patience for that kind of thing, I would not recommend buying this game. However, if you do have patience for that kind of thing, you can always look back at the VODs that I did for this game, and also you can look up guides yourself. The game is pretty solid, but it definitely does feel very amateurish in some ways. Apparently this game was made by a small team. I think it's actually impressive despite how it looks, how much content is in this game, but definitely feels like they haven't really played a lot of other games like this, you know, with a large open world. Like, there's no premium adventure like the Yakuza games or the Yakuza games or Tales or anything like that, where you can go back and get things at your own leisure. You really do just have to keep playing the game and finding the right chapter, which is really awkward. Anyway, I hope that helps. If you want to see more gameplay, the reason this video does not have much gameplay is because I streamed like maybe 1.5 of my playthroughs. So you can go back and check my VODs if you want to see full unedited gameplay. I just thought I'd give a quick overview on it. The game is actually quite simple to understand. It's mostly just the lack of, you know, professional design, like not telling you where to go, you know, randomly taking fast travel away and stuff. There's a lack of polish there, but the game was good enough that I did finish it twice. I probably will go through the other 2 difficulties. It's just I need to go find the extra moves and stuff before I do that. Hope this helps, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video. I'll definitely be playing this more as I get more of the secrets. Thanks for watching.